This is your Barbados Today Morning News Update for Thursday, June 20th, 2019. Thanks for joining us. I'm Carol Williams. Yet another attempt will be made tomorrow to resolve the impasse over the two proposed 24-hour polyclinics. The meeting again involves officials in the Ministry of the Civil Service. Previous attempts to resolve the matter have failed. Yesterday, nurses who were objecting to the shift system met for 2 hours with officials of the National Union of Public Workers, NUPW. The union's acting general secretary, Delcia Burke, makes it clear that the matter won't be resolved by the issuance of directives.
We are going to meet with the powers that be at 2 o'clock on Friday, and we will communicate what the nurses have told us. After that, then we'll be able to speak to the public and to the press.
Okay. Now, the minister, and that's Minister Bostic, would have come out and said that, Cabinet took a decision last Thursday, and that he's pretty confident that the 24-hour polyclinic will move ahead and move along.
He said that, and I didn't say when. So I might move along, but when?
But when? Okay.
Yeah, because they certainly don't have enough nurses, but Mr. Bostic said that, but he didn't give a time.
The union official also commented on the government's plan to bring nurses from Ghana and the possibility of using some of them to effect the 24-hour polyclinics.
I believe so. If certain conditions are attached to the recruitment of nurses from Ghana, first they have to be able to speak that the public can understand. We have to be sure that they are properly trained. They would have to do our regional exam that our nurses have to do. And as long as they meet those three qualifications, then I believe that they could work.
A year-end timeline has been set for the implementation of a system that could reduce the cost of doing business in Barbados. Minister of Small Business, Entrepreneurship and Commerce, Dwight Sutherland, gave an update on the electronic single window yesterday. The system provides a single online platform for the exchange of documents. Minister Sutherland spoke to the media after addressing a 2-day public stakeholder workshop on trade facilitation.
This will take work, and indeed this 2-day process indeed will reinvigorate, or I would say put the necessary stimulus and the necessary energy and the framework as well into the various agencies, and they themselves have committed to having this process completed by year end. So by the end of 2019, we intend to see a fully implemented Barbados electronic single window to improve the ease of doing business and to improve trade facilitation in this country.
Meantime, at another event, the minister issued a challenge to the Cavell campus of the University of the West Indies as he addressed the Business Plan Competition Awards ceremony of the Student Entrepreneurial Empowerment Development SEED program. Sutherland urged the institution to play a greater role in developing entrepreneurs.
Academia must seek to reinvent itself, and that's what I'm speaking about, so that visions become practical and talk is replaced by the boldness to act, even in such circumstances where commitment to a status quo that is regressive is no longer encouraged as a reasonable response. And Professor Rebecca spoke about that. Ladies and gentlemen, in this modern era, universities must both develop and equip their human assets with the orientation and capacity for spontaneous responses to opportunities of wide-ranging patterns, both near and far.
Over 60 businesses have been created out of the SEED program, with CIBC First Caribbean International Bank contributing over $180,000.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Over to Antigua and Barbuda, where Prime Minister Gaston Brown has confirmed that his government will move to divest some of its Liat shares when it assumes majority stake in the regional airline. Two island states' interest in Liat is poised to reach almost 75% once it takes over the majority of Barbados' shares. As we hear from ABS Television News, another regional government is already indicating interest.
What we're trying to do here is to broaden the participation in Liat so that Liat would function as a truly regional institution.
The Prime Minister speaking against the backdrop of moves to acquire most of Barbados' shares in the regional carrier that will make Antigua and Barbuda the majority stakeholder. However, Prime Minister Brown says the government is not seeking to hold on to all the 73% shares it will likely end up with.
With the understanding that we will then divest those shares to other governments. I mean, the Prime Minister of Dominica may well agree to take an increased stake.
The Prime Minister of Dominica is definitely inclined to do this.
Once Antigua would have settled these negotiations with Barbados, Dominica would certainly like to engage in a discussion on how do we go forward in respect to the further apportioning of shares in Liat.
He wants other governments to invest in the carrier, but not only governments.
The regional private sector needs to join forces with the government.
For the Premier of the British Virgin Islands, Andrew Foy, Liat is quintessentially Caribbean as he took a favourable stance toward the carrier.
We're going to do all we can to sit down and see how can we put this together, explain it to our territories, and let them to know that divided we're going to fall. It's our old vintage, but it's the truth.
And finally, thousands of men and women in Japan who were forcibly sterilized are to receive compensation from the government. This comes decades after they became victims of a law designed to prevent the birth of so-called inferior children. Back in April, MPs passed a bill that will compensate 25,000 victims who were sterilized from 1948 until the law was abolished in 1996. We get the details from France 24.
After an hour-long hearing, the court said the eugenics law had violated the plaintiffs' right to have children, but it rejected their demands for compensation. The court also noted that the statute of limitations on the compensation claims had expired.
So
the court has said it can't rule on a case that is more than 20 years old. But I think it should have taken into better account the fact that I have been suffering for the past 60 years.
This did not happen by accident. It was a government policy. But the right to procreate is guaranteed by the Constitution.
The law was introduced after the Second World War as part of government attempts to rebuild a poor, defeated nation by encouraging births of healthy children. The measure denied thousands of people with disabilities and mental disorders the right to have children. The victims included orphans, marginalised people, and those who were just considered different.
And that's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook. And sign up for breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM. I'm Carol Williams. Have a good day.